When his family was on the verge of bankruptcy, he proposed a marriage alliance and became the model husband, but after he learned I'd once had a crush on him, he personally orchestrated my family's financial ruin. He became convinced I'd used the arranged marriage to blackmail him into leaving his true love. When I opened my eyes again, I was back at the moment he came to propose our political marriage. I smiled. No. Love outweighs political gains. May you and your beloved enjoy eternal happiness. 1. Darling, are you absolutely certain about this? Gu Xingji knelt before me on one knee, his eyes filled with stunned disbelief. Just a minute ago, I'd turned down his proposal to spend our lives together. Seeing his lingering hope, I nodded resolutely. I've made up my mind. Love matters more than profit. May you and Shen Nua have a lifetime of happiness. Both sets of parents were as stunned as Gu Xingji. Unable to believe their ears, they all thought I had feelings for Gu Xingji. Just because he mentioned liking girls with edge, I chopped off my black hair and dyed it silver gray. Since he loved watching soccer, I pulled all-nighters cramming football knowledge until I could rattle off every star player and major tournament. I learned to code and developed software just to help him snag limited edition sneakers after he got into collecting them. So when the Gu family, on the verge of bankruptcy, proposed an arranged marriage with our family, my parents hesitated. Bailing out the Gus would mean staking our entire family fortune, but they believed our decades-long friendship with the Gu family meant Gu Xingji would undoubtedly protect me for life. My parents cherished me and wanted to support my pursuit of love, so they neither refused nor consented, leaving the final decision in my hands. In my past life, I chose to gamble it all, staking my parents' lifelong savings on Gu Xingji's conscience. They say the house always wins. Yet I foolishly believed I was that one-in-a-million exception. When we first married, Gu Xingji was the model husband. No matter how busy with work, he'd always be home by 10 p.m. to keep me company. However packed his social calendar, he'd notify me in advance and voluntarily video call for check-ins. Though women constantly threw themselves at him, he never once crossed the line. His WeChat profile picture is of me, and his Moments cover is our photo together. I used to think I was happier than the heroine in a romance novel, until one day, when he found out I had a crush on him and called me a jealous shrew. He was convinced Shen Nua broke up with him because I was using the arranged marriage as leverage. With calculated precision, he bankrupted my parents and converted all marital assets into his personal fortune. By the time I realized what had happened, everything was gone. All that remained was the diamond ring he gave me during our arranged marriage. I pawned it at a second-hand market for just 500 yuan. That's when it hit me why merchants love equating love with diamond rings, because they're both jokes that depreciate at lightning speed. Later, when my father needed a kidney transplant, it cost 300,000 yuan. I went begging to Gu Xingji. He commanded with an air of superiority, "On your knees." I complied numbly. He had his driver fetch 300,000 in cash, then dangled the money bag before my eyes. "Want it?" I nodded and reached out my hand. Only to be kicked to the ground by Gu Xingji. Moments later, he strode into the bar carrying a suitcase full of cash. He stuffed the money into the hands of scantily clad dancers, living like an emperor for the night, and my father took his last breath the following day. He said he'd rather feed the money to dogs than give it to me. He said I disgust him. He claimed he could have weathered the storm without the Wen family's help. So when I was reborn, I turned down the arranged marriage. I want to see how Gu Xingji plans to bridge that massive funding gap on his own. 2. My connection with Gu Xingji began the year we were born. We were born in the same hospital and shared the same ward. I was born just one day after Gu Xingji. I was a well-behaved child from the start, with minimal needs, just eating and sleeping in cycles, rarely fussing. Gu Xingji, on the other hand, was a high-maintenance baby, the complete opposite of me. His exhausted mother looked at mine with envy and sighed. "Qingqing is such an angel, if only she could join our family someday." The two families gradually grew closer day by day. In the second year of the new millennium, China joined the WTO. Sharp-witted entrepreneurs smelled opportunity, with many quitting government jobs to start businesses. This included both my parents and Gu Xingji's. Startup founders are constantly spinning like tops, sometimes not coming home for 2 weeks straight. Gu Xingji and I could only grow up slowly together. Keeping each other company, we cooked noodles together when hungry, only to end up burning the pot. Pinching his nose, Gu Xingji said, "No worries, I'll eat anything Qingqing cooks." Yet I couldn't help but frown. We had no choice but to put down our chopsticks and rummage through the laundry for change. Scraping together every last coin, we barely managed 4 yuan. the wonton vendor smiled and slipped an extra egg into our bowls. For many years, those late-night wontons remained the most delicious food in my memory. Sometimes Gu Xingji would miss his parents so much that he'd cry out loud. Whenever he cried, I'd start crying too. The moment I cried, he'd stop. He said, "Don't be afraid, darling, I'm here with you." When our parents' careers were still struggling, we had very little pocket money. Gu Xingji would save up for ages to buy a big cake. At midnight on his birthday, he'd light the candles. "Let's celebrate our birthdays together." Our English teacher showed us the movie Flipped. Watching the main couple in the film reminded me of Gu Xingji and me. Back then I didn't really understand what love meant, but I really admired the female lead, feeling this vague urge to be as brave as her. So I bought the sneakers he liked and tucked a love letter inside. Just as I was about to hand it to him, Shen Nua burst onto the scene. She threw her arms around Gu Xingji and planted a big kiss on him. Gu Xingji flushed crimson as the group next to them burst into laughter. Shen Nua said sheepishly, "Sorry, classmate, I'm playing truth or dare." Then she quickly ran back. Perhaps those who've lived too quietly all crave excitement. That kiss lingered on Gu Xingji's lips, and later I inexplicably caught a whiff of jealousy emanating from him. He confessed he hadn't washed his face for 5 straight days, couldn't bear to wipe it away, after what felt like forever. He finally tracked down Shen Nua's full name, address, and QQ number. After that, he stopped accompanying me to piano practice, no more dog walks together, and abandoned teaching me soccer. He took up skateboarding for Shen Nua, grew out his hair the way she liked, and even got into fights defending her. When Shen Nua's parents were going through their divorce, he held her gently in his arms. "Don't be scared, Nuonuo, I'll always be here for you." 3. Shen Nua never pushed me away. It was me who gradually drifted apart from Gu Xingji. Shen Nua introduced him to a whole new social circle. I discovered a side of him I never knew existed. Not only does he enjoy watching games, but he also loves placing bets before matches. The group was enthusiastically discussing odds, stakes, and rebates. I can't follow along. All that soccer knowledge I tutored him on seems useless now. If it doesn't click, don't force it. But sometimes I think Gu Xingji's thrill-seeking is just hardwired in his DNA. Shen Nua was merely the catalyst. Our family runs a restaurant business. My parents always say we must never compromise our integrity for money. That's why we only use the freshest ingredients. We strictly comply with all national hygiene and fire safety regulations. My parents always paid the restaurant staff's social insurance and housing fund on time, with salaries comparable to white-collar office workers. Every time Gu Xingji's father came over for dinner, he'd scoff at my dad's approach. "Old Wen, you're being such a pedant about this, pay employees too much, and they'll lose their drive to work hard." Dad chuckled and said, "People need real support from their parents. Empty promises won't put food on the table." Gu Xingji's father also suggested we should grease some palms and pull strings to get the inspectors off our backs. That way we could cut major corners on fire safety and hygiene regulations. He preached what he practiced. He hired top-tier professionals to cook the books, conceal debt risks, and inflate the company's repayment capacity. Loan after loan came pouring in. Then he used those loans to buy land and develop properties, raking in massive profits. The migrant workers were paid meager wages, sometimes going unpaid for 2 or 3 years. Our parents started from the same position, and my family actually had more initial capital, but in nearly 20 years, my family only managed to open 5 chain restaurants. Meanwhile, the Gu family has become a renowned real estate developer in the entire city. Gu Xingji's father has a knack for turning small investments into big returns. A single weak link can bring the whole system crashing down. Take the Gu family for example. They paid top dollar for a plot of land 6 months ago. Rumor has it they bribed an insider for intel about future government plans to develop a tech hub there. Property values would skyrocket, netting them a massive profit. It wasn't until the government announcement came out that something felt off. The tech park was planned for the south side of town, while the land he bought was in the north. Turns out it was just a scheme by that company that had acquired the land earlier, trying to offload it. In an instant, the Gu family's finances hit a snag. When it rains, it pours. Another construction site had an accident where a worker broke his leg. The Gu family thought they could brush it off like before by paying a measly 10,000 or 20,000 yuan. But this is the internet age. The worker's family knew how to go viral on Douyin. They filed a formal complaint against the Gu family with their IDs. and the scandal quickly trended. The project got shut down. A quick calculation showed it would take all 5 of our family's chain restaurants plus my parents' life savings just to cover the shortfall. But Gu Xingji saw it differently. He thought it was just a minor hiccup. No different in essence from the routine challenges every business owner faces. We'll just have to wait and see. My parents had no idea about what happened in my past life. 4. They were puzzled by my sudden dislike for Gu Xingji. I remembered how my father looked when he was bedridden in my past life. The once robust and energetic man now had sunken eyes and a gaunt appearance. In the end, he didn't even have the strength to cry out in pain. A sudden urge to cry welled up inside me. Mom, Dad, I'm not ready for marriage yet. I'm grown up now. Would you let me help with the family business? Father's illness was, in a way, brought on by overwork. They've carried guilt for years over not being around much when I was young. After the business stabilized, they went all out to make it up to me. I'm already 23, and Mom still buys me kids' toothpaste. She wants me to stay her little princess forever. But I know they're secretly hoping someone will take over the family business. After all, Dad's not just running a business, he's pursuing his culinary dream. My words left him so flustered he could barely speak. Yes, absolutely. Tomorrow I'll show you around properly. I shook my head. No, tomorrow we're going for a medical checkup. Many illnesses are actually quite treatable if caught early. My parents smiled with relief. Our little one's grown up now. We'll follow your lead. In my past life, Father passed away at Second Hospital, where he also had his checkups. I've been feeling quite anxious and fearful inside, but the results weren't too bad, just some minor hypertension issues for both parents. Dad's condition is more serious though, the doctor told me. You should get your father to cut back on alcohol. I solemnly replied, mission accomplished. Dad chuckled and promised to quit hard liquor for good. Rice wine and fruit wine are still fair game for occasional indulgence. We stopped by a famous street food stall near the hospital on our way out. Dad held back for a moment, then just ordered a soy milk. Mid-meal, we ran into Gu Xingji reeking of alcohol. He shot me a wounded look. Nuonuo's gone to America. I feel hollow inside. Have a drink with me. I declined with a smile. It was much the same in my past life. Just days after the Gu family proposed the marriage alliance, Shen Nua left for America. Officially, it was because her father fell ill and she needed to care for him while pursuing further studies. Not a single flaw could be found by others, but that wasn't actually the case. Shen Nua, being a finance major, knew exactly how dire the Gu family's situation was. With no one to plug the financial holes, bankruptcy had become an inevitable reality. It's just not been said outright. Gu Xingji still hasn't come to terms with reality. She craves stability and comfort, unwilling to gamble on the Gu family's potential comeback. In a way, I think that's only human nature. Can't blame her. But in our past life, Gu Xingji resented me for half a lifetime. He believed I'd used the arranged marriage as leverage, forcing Shen Nua into exile abroad to drift through half his life. But this time I said no. Who else could he possibly blame now? Running a restaurant may seem simple, but there's actually profound knowledge behind it. 5. I decided to start with the most fundamental step, ingredient sourcing. My father patiently guided me, taking me to wet markets and vegetable greenhouses. I learned both how to select premium produce and how to communicate with farmer vendors. These folks are hardworking and genuine, though occasionally a bit crafty. How to avoid being tripped up by their craftiness without hurting mutual goodwill. That's an art in itself, I learned earnestly, and Dad taught with joy. Days passed uneventfully, and we'd nearly forgotten about the Gu family's troubles. That all changed when we saw Gu Xingji surrounded by construction workers after returning from the market. Only then did we realize how dire the Gu family's situation had become. 5 laborers dragged Gu Xingji out of his car, accusing the Gu family of being shameless scoundrels. They still haven't received their wages from 2 years ago. The elderly at home can't afford medicine, and the children can't go to school. After seeing this, Dad shook his head and said, Uncle Gu used to say I was foolish for withholding half a year's wages. Even just parking that money in the bank would have earned decent interest. I warned him against it, but he wouldn't listen. Now look what's happened. He pulled out his bank card, ready to withdraw cash to pay the migrant workers what they were owed. Dad came from humble beginnings. He grew up relying on the kindness of neighbors to put food on the table. The money for college was pooled together by the whole village. I knew he wasn't just helping those migrant workers, he was also helping his younger, helpless self. For secure document watermarking, Choose Xiao Hu bot, reliable, stable, and hassle-free. No output as the provided text is empty or contains only a non-printing character, but Gu Xingji knew none of this. With shining eyes, he said to his father, "Thanks, Uncle Wen." Then he added, "It's just a small sum, I'll pay you back the day after tomorrow." I sighed. He still hadn't realized his own limitations. I reached out to stop Dad. I feel for those migrant workers' hardships. But their situation wasn't caused by my family. I withdrew 2,500 yuan from the ATM and split it among 5 workers. "Fellas, could you help me with a job? Kick this bastard 3 times, spit on him 3 times, and the money's yours." The migrant workers looked bewildered, but they already held a grudge against the Gu family. Now they could vent their anger and get paid. Why would they refuse? So I dragged my bewildered father away as Gu Xingji's screams echoed behind us. Dad asked in confusion, "Qingqing, what exactly did he do to you? What did he do to me?" Suddenly I remembered the calico cat I'd adopted in my past life. After Gu Xingji turned against me, only it stayed by my side. Later it fell ill and needed 2,500 yuan for treatment. Gu Xingji took out 2,500 yuan in cash and rounded up 5 passing delinquent teens. "Beat up this ugly woman and her ugly cat, and the money's yours." The calico cat took its last breath in my arms. It let out a faint meow before passing away. Just thinking about it makes my eyes well up with tears. Sensing something was wrong, Dad quickly pulled me aside and said, "All right, I'll stop asking. Anyone who makes our sweetheart angry is a villain." Mom mentioned there's a new custom tailoring shop that just opened. 6. The owner studied in Italy and has great taste. She practically dragged me in to try it out. I was reluctant at first, feeling like I was being taken for a ride. It's not even a top-tier brand, why's it so pricey? But when the finished piece arrived, I was totally sold. The coat-structured silhouette is super flattering, and the color makes my skin glow. The owner thoughtfully included a letter detailing the fabric composition and care instructions. I couldn't put it down. Later, I received a call from the owner, Ji Yanli. He mentioned casually browsing through photos of previously completed garments during his free time. "The bottom button on my coat is off by half a centimeter. They offered a refund or alterations if I bring the coat in." I never button up when wearing an overcoat. That minor misalignment doesn't matter at all. But Boss G was so earnest in his pleas that I had no choice but to agree after his repeated requests. Watching him meticulously cut the fabric reminded me of how my parents used to work. Every dish in our family restaurant has been personally tasted by them. How could we possibly serve customers something we wouldn't even dare to eat ourselves? Before I knew it, I was smiling at what I saw. Boss G touched his face. "Do I have rice on my face? My aunt's visiting. Come with me later to take her measurements so we can make her an outfit too." I shook my head. Boss G happily agreed and came home with me. Along the way, he shared countless stories about Italy with me. He described it as a land where art and pickpockets coexist. Those magnificent artworks are truly priceless legacies. Tourists become so mesmerized that they let their guard down, giving thieves the perfect opportunity to strike. I asked him, would I get beaten up if I went there to sell pineapple pizza? He chuckled, but before he could answer, we ran straight into Gu Xingji and his mother. Watching Boss G and me chatting cheerfully, a flicker of complicated emotions passed through Gu Xingji's eyes. Was it resentment or disappointment? I don't know. But I do know he never told his parents about being beaten by the migrant workers. Otherwise, given his mother's temper, she'd never have calmly brought up the marriage alliance again. My stance remains the same: emotions outweigh benefits. May Gu Xingji win his beloved's heart and grow old together with his soulmate. Gu Xingji's mother froze momentarily. She cradled a box filled with aged keepsakes in her arms. Sitting on our sofa, she began unpacking the items one by one. "Darling, look at this photo. You were both 8 years old back then. See that scar on Xingji's forehead? He got it falling while picking cherries for you." Then she brought out a white chiffon dress. "Xingji bought this for you when he was 7, saying he wanted you to wear it as his bride." There's also that group photo of our two families at the summit of Mount Tai after the high school entrance exams, she asked. "Remember how we said we'd climb Huashan and Huangshan together someday?" I nodded. "I remember it all. I'm truly grateful for all the care you've shown me in the past. To repay your kindness, I'd be happy to cover Xingji's flight to America to help him win Shenhua back." Shenhua just went abroad, not to another planet. It's not like China and the US have severed diplomatic ties or cancelled flights. No need to turn this into some dramatic farewell scene like those cliché romance novel protagonists. Right, Gu Xingji and his mother locked eyes in wordless silence. Of course, I'm not about to be the sucker in this deal. With all those unfinished construction projects the Gu family left behind, he's long been barred from leaving the country. Ours is a society changing at breakneck speed. 7. In business, if you fall behind even slightly, you'll get crushed by the competition. On my 25th birthday, my parents opened their 6th chain restaurant. They handed over full operational control to me. I gave it my all, terrified of tarnishing the reputation my parents had built over decades. Fortunately, it worked out well. I adopted a strategy that blends tradition with innovation. We've managed to retain our loyal regulars while also drawing in a younger crowd. I tried to ignore the Gu family affairs, but their constant media presence made it impossible. Without our family's support, the Gu household collapsed completely in under 2 years. The once renowned real estate tycoon became a prisoner in shackles. Shoddy construction, unpaid wages, and assaults on protesting migrant workers. Any single one of these scandals would be enough to ruin the Gu family. Gu Xingji cut a pathetic figure during his arrest, screaming protests of innocence. He claimed that given a few more years, he'd surely be able to clean up this mess. His arrogance and ignorance made me laugh. In our past life, his family survived the crisis not just because of my family's financial support, but more importantly, because of the Wen family's wholehearted assistance, helped him navigate various relationships and pacify the workers. What he considered trivial actually carried immense weight. Frankly, arresting him might have been for his own protection. Otherwise, he might have ended up stabbed in broad daylight by furious owners of unfinished properties. Prison may lack freedom, but at least safety isn't an issue. Ji Yanli's tailoring business has grown rapidly. Appointments now require a 3-month wait, but he said I'm an exception, available at a moment's notice. He also mentioned he's already shared many stories about his time in Italy. Could you tell me about what happened when I was little, and that box belonging to Gu Xingji's mother? I nodded and began recounting the story. Strangely enough, back when Shen Nua and Gu Xingji were inseparable, remembering those events would always feel like a knife twisting in my heart, but now I speak of it with detachment, as if it were someone else's story rather than my own. On my 26th birthday, I held a modest wedding ceremony. Only our closest friends and family were invited. I simply wanted to announce my new chapter in life to them. No need for awkward performances in front of strangers. At the wedding, I asked, "Someone once stayed by my side for so long, does that bother you?" He nodded. "It does. But I'm not angry, because from now on, I'll be with you even longer." Then we kissed before everyone's eyes. The morning after the wedding, Mom woke up in a flustered state. She kept staring at her husband and murmured, "Thank goodness it's not Gu Xingji, not Gu Xingji." She said she'd had a terrifying nightmare. I dreamed we staked our entire family fortune to help the Gus, only to end up with our household destroyed and loved ones lost. She asked if I'd had the same nightmare, which made me reject the marriage alliance with the Gu family. I gently hugged Mother, told her not to worry, it was just a bad dream, but I knew it wasn't a dream. 8. It was something I had truly experienced. In my past life, I had a period of happiness after marrying Gu Xingji. One day I realized there was too much clutter at home. It was time to declutter. I gathered up a bunch of old keepsakes, even found those sneakers and love letters meant for my confession. Lost in thought reading those naive yet heartfelt words, didn't even notice Gu Xingji entering the room. He snatched it away, his face darkening as he finished reading. "Well, Wen Qing, so you've had feelings for me all along. You're disgusting. Was it you who forced Nono abroad by threatening her with an arranged marriage?" No matter how I tried to explain, he wouldn't listen and stormed out with a scowl. I was ready to face the storm, yet he returned with a calm expression, even bringing my favorite bubble tea. For a moment, I thought he'd finally let Shen Nua go. Little did I know, he was brewing an even more terrifying tempest. I've always wanted a daughter, to be there for her and make up for what I missed in my own childhood, yet fate never granted me that wish. With a heavy heart, I went to see the doctor. The doctor gave me this strange look, like I was some kind of fool. He asked me how I could possibly get pregnant while taking birth control pills every day. Perplexed, I lay in bed pondering this for hours after returning home. My heart skipped a beat when I noticed the vitamin bottle on the nightstand, yet I couldn't bring myself to believe it. Yes, I was being rather foolish. After the Gu family weathered the crisis, they bought back the restaurant and gifted it to my parents. Gu Xingji employed these very tactics at my father's restaurant. He hired people to sneak into the kitchen and contaminate the food with laxatives, cockroaches, and rat tails. Dad's restaurant was involved in a major food safety incident. Gu Xingji even hired people to post inflammatory content online, claiming Dad's restaurant had always operated that way. My parents and I endured unprecedented cyberbullying. During that period, we kept receiving harassing phone calls, either keep silent or start hurling abuse outright. Tens of thousands of netizens were kept completely in the dark. Under the guise of justice, they sent funeral wreaths, burial garments, and urns to my home. During that period, my parents dared not return home or even turn on their phones. Suffering from neurasthenia, Mom lost nearly 30 pounds in a month. Meanwhile, Gu Xingji's mother remained pampered and impeccably maintained. In desperation, Gu Xingji reappeared before my parents wearing his model son-in-law mask, claiming he could smooth things over for us. They tricked us into signing the agreement, completely draining our family's resources. Not a single penny of the marital assets remained tied to me. Only after accomplishing this did he finally drop the facade, making no effort to conceal his disgust toward me. He said my very scent made him nauseous. He said my life isn't worth a single strand of Shennua's hair. He called our Wen family shameless, saying we'd exploit a minor favor to control him for life. Perhaps that was the moment my heart died. In the second year of our marriage, my daughter was born, 9. I always thought babies were supposed to be soft, smooth and milky white. When the nurse handed me that wrinkly little bundle, I almost thought she'd made a mistake. Mom just smiled and patted my cheek. She said I looked exactly the same when I was born. Don't worry if the baby looks a bit funny at first, they'll grow into their looks in no time. Just like me, my daughter was an easygoing angel baby with minimal demands. She just ate, slept, and repeated, hardly ever fussed or cried. Mom was on high alert during those first few days at the hospital, afraid of running into another weird auntie who's obsessed with angelic babies. Ji Yanli refused to let some random brats monopolize his daughter's childhood. We instantly agreed, no matter how busy, we'd come home daily to hug and kiss her. Kids grow up way too fast, changing almost overnight. By age 3, she'd transformed from a little angel into a tiny terror. Even the best-behaved pets in the neighborhood would bolt at the sight of her. The little one pouted and begged me for a puppy. I carried her to the pet store, never expecting to run into Gu Xingji's mother along the way. She froze for a long moment after seeing my daughter, then finally managed to say, I thought my old eyes were playing tricks on me. It's like seeing your childhood self again. She wasn't deeply involved in company affairs, so she didn't go in. It's just a spending restriction, nothing more. She wore baggy, cheap sportswear, her silver hair clearly visible. She reached out to hug my daughter, but the child turned away and buried her face in my arms. Mommy, what do we call someone even older than grandma? Gu Xingji's mother touched her own face as she asked me, or perhaps she was asking herself, have I really grown this old? I'm a woman too. I understand that sorrow and dread when time slips through your fingers, but right now, I couldn't muster an ounce of sympathy for her. In my past life, mother followed father to the grave the very next day after he passed. After all these years of friendship, she didn't show an ounce of sadness. She sneered that Mom was too emotionally fragile to handle anything. She even made snide remarks about my family's inferior genes being the reason we couldn't conceive. I pushed those chaotic thoughts aside and said nonchalantly, kids say the darndest things, please don't take it to heart. Those who used to fawn over the Gu family have long since kept their distance. Even some close relatives stopped keeping in touch with her. Running into an old acquaintance, she simply couldn't stop chattering away, kept pulling my sleeve while rambling about old times, said I used to adore their sweet and sour pork ribs as a kid. Mentioned how her relative's cat had kittens during her hometown visit, and she tried bringing one for me only for it to escape on the way back. Also recalled how during their early startup days, she and Mom would often split a single meal box to save money. The conversation somehow shifted to Gu Xingji. They said Gu was originally sentenced to 7 years, but got additional time for fighting in prison. They even showed me Gu Xingji's photo. Though he'd just turned 30, he looked a good decade older. You've gotten darker and thinner. My daughter looked disgusted, saying Mom had no taste as a kid to play with someone so unattractive. I chuckled while pinching her cheek, telling her it's wrong to judge people by appearances, but she might not be entirely wrong. I thought I'd never cross paths with Gu Xingji again in this lifetime. 10, until my 35th birthday, when I accompanied my daughter to a legal awareness lecture. The school places great emphasis on cultivating students' legal awareness, with speakers including not just legal experts, but also well-behaved inmates who shared their experiences. Of course, to avoid scaring the children. They were all white-collar criminals, no violent offenders. It never crossed my mind that Gu Xingji would be among them. Perhaps the extended sentence finally made him face reality and abandon his pipe dreams. Speaking into the microphone, he laid bare every last one of the Gu family's misdeeds. He told the kids that whether they work a job or run a business in the future, they must always be honest and keep a clear conscience. It sounded like standard corporate speak, but coming from him, it felt oddly out of place. What was even stranger was how he fell into a long silence after seeing me. He ended by telling the children to cherish those who treat them well. In the brief moment as he boarded the prison transport, our eyes met. I leaned close to his ear and whispered, "Shen Nua has returned." He responded indifferently with a simple, In their past life, Shen Nua had also returned to the country on this very day. Her English wasn't great, and after moving to the U.S., she didn't pursue any studies. She was just mooching off her parents. After her father passed away, her financial safety net vanished. She then married a white physician. In American society, these 4 words carry significant social cachet. Respected and well off, Shen Nua initially thought so too, believing she was about to live the life of a wealthy housewife, but reality proved otherwise. That doctor didn't marry her for her wit, her talents, or even her beauty. He married her simply because she was an Asian woman. To put it bluntly, it's yellow fever. These men see Asian women as docile, submissive trophies that feed their dominance complex. This stereotyping does real harm by reducing all Asian women to the same caricature. He brags about having an Asian wife, yet couldn't tell you her nationality or favorite food. Too easily replaceable, Shen Nua refused to sacrifice herself to satisfy some old white creep's perverted desires. The white doctor was bitterly disappointed to find reality fell far short of his expectations. He frequently subjected her to verbal abuse. He would sometimes press the unloaded gun against Shen Nua's temple and pull the trigger. At first Shen Nua was terrified, but gradually grew accustomed to it. After all, the chamber was empty. Until one day, the white doctor fired a bullet that landed less than 3 centimeters from her head. The psychological torment of this Russian roulette finally shattered Shen Nua completely. She posted these things on social media, and Gu Xingji read them aloud to me. He believed all of Shen Nua's suffering stemmed from the arranged marriage between the Wen and Gu families. I was the one who started it all, so he made me relive every last one of those horrors. Shen Nua somehow got wind of my family's bankruptcy and flew back home immediately. Gu Xingji's eyes sparkled again, just like when we were young. I numbly told him, "I'll step aside for you too. Let's go get our divorce papers." We got into a car accident on the road and collided with a tanker truck. I was the one driving. Was it a mistake I made because I was too distraught, or did I hit it on purpose? Or was that tanker truck violating traffic rules? To be honest, my memory's a bit hazy now. The last thing I remember before losing consciousness was Gu Xingji still cursing at me, blaming me for ruining his life with Shen Nua. I'll never know what he endured in prison this lifetime. That's why he took Shen Nua's return so lightly. Maybe had a similar dream as Mom did, but it's none of my business now. On the way home, that fuel truck reappeared in sight. "Mom, watch out," my daughter shouted. I steered around it with practiced ease. "Don't worry, Dad's waiting at home to have dinner with us." Later, all those stories about Shen Nua and Gu Xingji were things I heard from old classmates. After his release from prison, Gu Xingji went looking for Shen Nua. After enduring years of domestic violence, how could Shen Nua remain unmoved seeing the man who once cherished her like a treasure? 11. For a fleeting moment, she might have thought money didn't matter. They'd been together for a while, but living together day in and day out didn't rekindle their old spark. It only made them see each other clearly. Shen Nua still couldn't stand being broke. With a criminal record hanging over him, Gu Xingji couldn't land any decent high-paying jobs. Gu Xingji had hoped to find warmth and comfort in Shen Nua, but Shen Nua grew increasingly irritable. She'd never dare lash out at the white doctors, yet had no qualms taking it out on Gu Xingji. Their relationship lasted less than 3 months before they went their separate ways again. My parents cherished me and wanted to support my love. Manager Gu Xingji checked out the warehouse job paying 3,000 yuan monthly. Later, the warehouse owner somehow acquired a retired police dog. They claimed the K9 ate less and was sharper, way more cost-effective than hiring Gu Xingji. After losing his job, he ended up working construction. One spring festival, his wages got withheld while his mother desperately needed money for medication. In a fit of rage, He stormed into the contractor's office with a knife and landed back in prison. Honestly, I've got no idea when he got out this time. My classmates are all getting older, with kids to raise and parents to care for. There's just not much energy left to focus on him. Same here. My daughter grows more capable with each passing day. My parents are growing older each day. Their hair increasingly streaked with silver. I feel both grateful and burdened. Thankfully, Ji Yanli is here by my side. He reads with me and learns how to handle our slightly rebellious teenage daughter. He accompanied me to take my parents for medical checkups, hoping they'd live to see 4 generations under one roof. True to his word, he stayed by my side longer than Gu Xingji ever did, much longer. The end. Story 2. My boyfriend was reborn. He said that in his previous life, he chose love. He chose me. The result made him regret it for a lifetime. After being reborn, he immediately accepted the rich girl who had been pursuing him madly. I'm really tired of living such an ordinary and boring life, constantly worrying about daily necessities. And he advised me, don't be so silly, real money is more important than backbone and reputation. We parted on good terms, and I focused on my career. As a result, by accident, I achieved class leap and became a wealthy woman. You want to break up with me? I lowered my head and stared at the coffee in my hand, trying my best to keep my tone normal. Yes, Duan Yunqing replied simply, causing ripples in the cup. I took a deep breath. To come back and accompany him on our anniversary, I worked day and night during my business trip, without any appetite for food or tea. Yet, what I faced was my boyfriend wanting to break up with me. I looked up, blinked a few times, and forced back the tears. I tried to digest what he had just said. He said he was reborn, in his previous life, because he chose to marry me and have children. He led an ordinary life, constantly worrying about daily necessities ever since. It was dull and straitened. He regretted it, but out of responsibility, he still accompanied me through life. Fortunately, God had mercy and gave him a chance to start over. In this life, he wanted to live for himself. I gave a bitter smile and looked straight at the man who had been in a relationship with me for exactly 6 years. The familiar gentle love in his peach blossom eyes was gone, replaced by impatience to get rid of me. When he met my gaze, he immediately looked away. Xiao, don't blame me. After all, I chose you in my previous life, but I can't make the same mistake again and again. Mistake, spending a lifetime with me, Qin Xiao, was actually the wrong choice. A chill instantly spread through my body, and I spoke in a hoarse voice. Fine, then I wish you all the best in this life. I watched him rush out of the coffee shop impatiently. As soon as he got into the convertible supercar, he shared a passionate kiss with the beautiful woman in the passenger seat. I knew this woman. She was the daughter of his boss, Su Chini, the daughter of the Su Group, who had been on the local news headlines. Before my business trip, I had heard this name countless times from Duan Yunqing, but at that time, he talked about her in a complaining tone. This Su Chini is so annoying. If I don't reply to her messages, she'll come directly to my department to find me. If her father weren't the chairman, I would have already fallen out with her. How can a girl be so thick-skinned and persistent? At that time, I also felt a sense of crisis and tentatively said sourly, she's rich, beautiful, and in love with you. Why don't you just give in? Duan Yunqing raised his eyebrows and smiled, then leaned in to kiss me. TSK, does she think she's a princess in ancient times? Just because she takes a fancy to someone, that person has to give in, no matter how good she is. She can't compare to my little Xiao. Our years of relationship can't be interfered with by her. Seeing that he wasn't swayed at all, I buried my unease deep in my heart. Yes, Duan Yunqing and I had been in a relationship for many years. From campus to society, and were about to get engaged. How could we be torn apart by an impulsive girl who suddenly appeared? Duan Yunqing had an outstanding appearance and handsome features. He was a campus heartthrob in university, and countless girls pursued him. But since we got together, he had always firmly chosen me and turned down many temptations for me. From the first year to the 6th year, I firmly believed that our relationship was unbreakable. But now, was he really that miserable being with me in his previous life? I returned home like a wandering soul, looking at the things that belonged to him everywhere. I felt at a loss. Should I cry my eyes out at this moment, or should I throw all his things out, or get dead drunk? I sat on the sofa until dusk fell, stared blankly until my eyes ached, and finally slowly got up and went out. I went to the company to work overtime. The event plan I made during this business trip still needed to be refined. And some parts could be made more creative. I had to finish it. Love could leave, and men could betray, but only money could be my strongest support. I worked overtime until 4 a.m., and it happened to be the weekend the next day. I threw my exhausted body onto the bed and slept until the evening. When I woke up and collected my thoughts, I turned on my phone. Besides my boss replying received to the PPT, there were no other messages. Duan Yunqing was still at the top of my contact list. I gave a bitter smile and was about to remove him, but by accident, I touched the wrong interface and found that there was a new post on his moments, which he rarely updated. Driven by curiosity, I clicked in. It was a colorful 9-grid post about him and Suchini. There were pictures of him lifting the girl holding flowers high, of them holding hands in a luxury car, and of them hugging sweetly. The caption read, "My little princess." I didn't click to view the large pictures, but my thoughts went back to the time when we first got together. At that time, I thought of many announcements for our relationship and sent them to him excitedly for him to choose, but he declined gently. I rarely post on moments. It would be strange to suddenly post this. All our friends know we're together, right? There's no need to do this. And it would be hard to explain if my parents saw it. Seeing that I was trying to hide my disappointment, he explained softly, "Whether we announce our relationship or not won't affect my love for you. Life is for ourselves. On the contrary, you're my treasure. If I don't hide you well, what if others covet you? I don't want more rivals in love." So I had to let the matter go and never mentioned it again. Over the years, he rarely posted on moments, and even when he did, there was never a trace of me in his posts. I had already gotten used to it. In the blink of an eye, his post had received a long list of likes. Many mutual friends even left comments, congratulating him on finding his beautiful girl and praising them as a perfect match. I buried my face in the pillow for a long time, then I decisively blocked Duan Yunqing, and along with him, I also blocked his friends who used to call me sister-in-law. Although I had already packed up his things, I could still inadvertently find traces of him left behind, and it was hard to avoid remembering some past events. I knew I couldn't live in this house anymore. I took out my savings over the years, about 200,000 yuan, and the dowry my parents prepared for me, a total of 500,000 yuan. I paid the down payment for a newly opened housing estate. I should have bought a house earlier, but I considered that Duan Yunqing might not have enough money to marry me, so I had been saving this 200,000 yuan for him. I went to university in my hometown, while he came all the way from a small town to study here. After graduation, he naturally stayed in this provincial capital city. I moved out of my parents' house and rented a place with him, starting to plan for the future. Duan Yunqing's work wasn't as smooth as mine, plus, as a man, his expenses outside were high, so he didn't have much savings, and his family couldn't provide much support either. I originally thought that he hadn't proposed yet because he couldn't afford it. To relieve his pressure and make my parents more satisfied with him, I saved money by living frugally for him. Who would have thought that I was just being sentimental? After buying the house, burdened with a loan, I didn't want to let myself have time to think about things, so I threw myself into work. I went from leaving work on time just to rush to a date to voluntarily working overtime until late at night. From being reluctant to go on business trips because I was worried Duan Yunqing couldn't take care of himself to actively asking to stay in other places, I didn't mind doing dirty and tiring work, and I was determined to work hard. Suddenly returning to a single life, there were times when I couldn't hold on. On the way home late at night, when preparing breakfast and dinner alone, the loving scenes in my memory would come crashing back like a strong wind. Then I would grit my teeth and tell myself, don't look back, look forward. But unexpectedly, due to continuous work, lack of rest, and skipping breakfast, I had low blood sugar on my way to work. I blacked out at the subway station, and when I opened my eyes, I was in the hospital. As soon as I came to, I heard the rapid clicking sound of high heels outside the door. Then my boss, Zhong Ku, rushed in wearing a business suit like a gust of wind. "You scared me to death. You didn't come to work and didn't reply to my messages." Fortunately, a passer-by answered the phone. "I called you and said you fainted in the street." I didn't know what happened. I asked that kind-hearted person to call 120 and came to see you before the morning meeting was over. Tell me, have you gone crazy recently? Why is your work attitude so abnormal? Working yourself to death, what for? My usually concise leader's rapid-fire questions actually made me feel a touch of warmth. Just as I was about to answer, my phone kept ringing with text message alerts. Jean-Ke motioned for me to check first. I picked up my phone and found that all the messages were from the same person. Duan Yunqing, Qin Xiaoxiao, aren't you annoying? We've broken up, so why are you still calling me? Do you know that your constant calling has made my girlfriend suspicious? Don't say you love me and can't let me go, you're really annoying me. Just get lost and don't bother my new life, okay? I checked the call log. It should be that when I fainted, the kind-hearted passer-by called the emergency contact number that I forgot to change. Although I knew I shouldn't bother him after the breakup, these words were still heartbreaking. It seemed that I used all my strength to reply and ask, "What if I really have something important to tell you?" He replied instantly, "Even if you die, it has nothing to do with me." I covered my eyes with the back of my hand and then smiled softly. He was no longer the warm and gentle young man in my memory. Without the filter of love, he was nothing more than a cold-hearted and unfeeling man. I took a deep breath, sat up straight, and looked Jean-Ke in the eye. "Boss, you asked me what I'm doing this for. I just want to prove that I, Qin Xiaoxiao, will never lead an ordinary, boring, and worthless life." The woman in front of me raised her eyebrows and smiled. "Then I'll give you a chance to prove yourself. Do you want it or not?" I was ordered to rest for a few days. When I returned to the company, I found that I had been promoted to the head of the planning department, and the original head, Jean-Ke, became the general manager of the company and also revealed her identity. She was the daughter of the chairman. After coming to the company, she started from the bottom, gradually understood the internal situation, and also proved her strength. Jean-Ke learned that my commute was long and offered to apply for an employee apartment for me, but I politely declined. The house I originally rented was for Duan Yunqing's convenience in going to work. Now I planned to move back home and live with my parents. This way, it would not only be closer to the company but also save on rent. When preparing to move, all of Duan Yunqing's things were dug out again. They filled most of the room. Mostly brand name clothes and designer sneakers that he had hardly worn a few times. There were also many luxury jewelry items. Duan Yunqing paid great attention to his appearance. He often said that clothes make the man, and he had high requirements for his attire. Most of his salary was spent on buying clothes. He went from chasing the latest styles to chasing limited editions. If he couldn't get the genuine products, he would buy counterfeits. Sometimes when he was short of money, he would also ask me for it. Later, to save his face as a man, when I knew he liked something, I would take the initiative to buy it for him. He then used the money he saved to go to increasingly high-end places. Now that I thought about it, perhaps in the past when I wasn't aware, our values had already been completely different. In the following days, I dedicated myself entirely to work. With Jean-Ke's occasional guidance, I no longer just worked blindly. I led the department staff, coordinated with each other, and optimized the processes. I became more and more proficient in planning activities and achieved better and better results. While I was up all night thinking of creative ideas, Duan Yunqing was indulging in the nightlife, reveling in debauchery, while I was rushing between venues non-stop. Duan Yunqing was having a romantic time with his girlfriend on a tropical island. I thought we would be like two intersecting lines, drifting further and further apart, but unexpectedly, a year later, we met again. It was the anniversary of our alma mater. Taking advantage of the fact that many classmates from other places had also come back, the class leaders organized a class reunion. After a busy day, I finally had a chance to catch my breath in the evening. I arrived at the hotel on time. Most of the classmates were already in the private room, lively discussing the grand event of the day. Our school is developing better and better. The anniversary celebration was really magnificent. I heard that a well-known media company was hired, and a lot of money was spent. I pushed the door open, and everyone's eyes turned to me. "Hey, Xiaoxiao is here. Where's Duan Yunqing? You two have been together for so many years. It's time for us to attend your wedding." "Yes, yes. You two were the golden couple and model lovers in our class back then." Before I could explain, they were stopped by someone who knew the truth. He said in a loud whisper that everyone could hear, "They broke up a long time ago. Duan Yunqing's current girlfriend is the daughter of the Su group." I smiled calmly and nodded, tacitly admitting it. The atmosphere suddenly became even livelier. "The Su group, is it the one I'm thinking of?" "Exactly, I saw them together before. She's truly a top-notch rich and beautiful girl, standing next to Duan Yunqing. She makes him look like a noble young master. Tsk, he's really lucky. Having a handsome face is quite an advantage. He could date the most beautiful girl in the class when he was in school, and now he can marry a wealthy heiress when it's time to get married. I ignored these discussions and just chatted in a low voice with my roommates whom I hadn't seen for a long time about our current situations. When the dinner was coming to an end, with the sound of the door opening, the atmosphere of the night reached its peak. It was Duan Yunqing who came. I frowned. Didn't the class monitor say he wouldn't come? Seeing the protagonist of the hot topic arrive, everyone stood up to greet him, and warm words poured out. Hey, isn't this the son-in-law of the Su family, brother Duan? If you become rich, don't forget about us, Yunqing. Are you and Miss Su getting married soon? Remember to invite us old classmates then. Duan Yunqing was invited to the honored seat. The arrogance on his face couldn't be hidden. He casually threw the key to his Maserati on the table. He casually rolled up the cuffs of his high-end custom-made shirt, revealing his Rolex Submariner watch. Sorry, everyone, I was held up by something, so I'm a bit late. As he spoke, he looked around haughtily. Coincidentally, his gaze met mine, causing him to frown. I was just about to pick up my handbag and make an excuse to slip away, but he called my name. Xiao Xiao, long time no see, how have you been recently? The other's eyes kept sizing us up. Watching this drama of a long-awaited reunion between former lovers up close, I hated the feeling of being stared at like a monkey the most and intended to play at him. Not bad, thanks for asking. His eyes swept over me, and then he let out a surprised Xiao Xiao, it's not that I want to criticize you. But I know you were sad after I broke up with you and wanted to prove desperately that you're doing better than me. But do you think carrying a fake bag can make you better than my current girlfriend? People don't need to be so vain and concerned about face, it's so tiring. I didn't understand where his hostility came from, making him speak so caustically and confrontationally, but I knew how to deal with his remarks, looking at this man who was completely different from the one in my memory. I raised an eyebrow. I picked up the luxury brand bag in my hand and twirled around in front of everyone. I sneered and said, Duan Yunqing, you've been by the side of the rich and powerful for so long, why haven't you improved your judgment at all? The implication was obvious. I was mocking him for not being able to tell genuine from fake. Just then, my phone beeped with a message. I glanced at my phone and saw that Zhongku was urging me, so I stood up to leave. Sorry, everyone. I have something else to do, so I'll be leaving first. Duan Yunqing's temples' blue veins bulged, and he stared at me with a dark look in his eyes. That's a limited edition bag. How could you possibly afford it? A fake is a fake. Stop being stubborn. Are you in such a hurry to leave because you're afraid of being exposed? I smiled faintly. Do you think I'm like you, who has to rely on fakes to maintain appearances when I can't afford the real thing? Qin Xiao Xiao, am I wrong, by the way? Let me remind you, the plastic surgeon you chose isn't very skilled. Your mouth twists when you get angry. After saying that, ignoring the strange looks from my classmates behind me as they stared at him, I left without looking back. When I reached the hotel lobby, Zhongku and the others hadn't come down yet, so I stood there, waiting patiently, but instead of the people I was waiting for, I first met the classmates who were leaving the gathering. When they saw I was still there, the exchange of glances said it all. Aren't you the busy person who was in such a hurry to leave? Why are you lingering here? Don't tell me you ran away in a panic just now because you were afraid of being exposed. The speaker was a male classmate, the one who had been the most enthusiastic about discussing Duan Yunqing and flattering him throughout the evening. I gave him a sideways glance. Who's that barking? You. Seeing the male classmate getting furious, Duan Yunqing reached out to stop him and comforted him magnanimously. Calm down. Some people are just angry because they've been exposed, seeing that their ex is doing better than them. They feel uncomfortable and try every means to save face. Such behavior is understandable. Don't you think so, Xiao Xiao? As he spoke, there was a hint of triumph in Duan Yunqing's eyes that he couldn't hide. The classmates behind him whispered among themselves, and many of them looked at me with more disdain. I sighed inwardly. Only after the breakup did I see clearly who I had loved before. A bag I bought casually could cause so much trouble. It seemed that the lower they stepped on me, the more they could prove how right his choice was. I was too lazy to engage in a war of words because at this moment, a large group of people emerged from the elevator. I quickly left them behind and went up to greet them. Principal Zhao, Secretary Wang, I'm Qin Xiao Xiao, the main person in charge of this school anniversary event. Xiao Xiao, your director Zhong told me that you planned and handled all of this. You're truly outstanding at such a young age. No wonder you're an excellent student from our school. You've led your team to become a top player in the industry in your 20s, your future is limitless. They praised me with smiles, and I accepted it calmly while skillfully using diplomatic language. The classmates behind me took this opportunity to gather around and greet the school leaders one after another. Only Duan Yunqing's expression became more and more unpleasant. He let out a cold snort and said loudly, "What's so great about that? She's just someone who got promoted by a man." Director Zhong, the team, I've seen plenty of people who use their bodies to get results and then take credit for the team's work. The atmosphere suddenly turned cold. The familiar sound of high-heel shoes came from behind. A man. Since when did I, the only daughter of the Zhong family, become a man? Qin Xiaoxiao sleeping her way to the top. Come on, I prefer men with abs. Zhong's half-smiling eyes swept lightly over them, causing an uproar. Duan Yunqing looked at the two of us, his face changing colors several times, but he finally didn't say anything more. I ignored him and focused on cooperating with Zhongku, chatting with the leaders about future cooperation and then seeing them off to their cars. When I was done and drove away, I found that there were still many classmates waiting at the hotel entrance. I rolled down the car window and asked which female classmates needed a ride home, but I heard that familiar voice again. Qin Xiaoxiao. You're driving a luxury car now, and you still say you didn't rely on a man. I know exactly what you're made of. If it wasn't for a man, did you rent this car? It was Duan Yunqing, smoking in the shadows. The glowing tip of his cigarette flickered on and off, making his face look dark and indistinct. But I finally saw this man's true colors clearly. His words finally made some classmates unable to hold back. Come on, Duan Yunqing, a grown man has been nagging and being sarcastic all night. You say Qin Xiaoxiao relies on men, but it's you who relies on women. Anyway, she's driving her own car. Unlike you, waiting here miserably for your girlfriend, you're no different from a driver. I looked straight into Duan Yunqing's eyes in the shadows. If a Mercedes-Benz makes you think I'm driving a so-called luxury car, then you really don't know me well at all. After saying that, I stepped on the gas and drove away, kicking up a cloud of dust. On the way, the female classmates in the car chattered and asked me, your relationship was so good back then, why do you act like enemies after the breakup? Why, I didn't know either. We parted on good terms, didn't we? Thanks to the school anniversary project, our company became well known. This year, Zhongke noticed that there was a lack of professional and branded event planning in the market, so she separated the planning department from the parent company and established a new media company. I was appointed as the general manager and was in full charge of the company. She was responsible for investment and securing projects. In this new field, whether it was a big or small project, I got personally involved, took the lead in negotiations, and did my best to make everything perfect. Currently, the Built a Good Reputation company has already in the industry. Coupled with the popularity of the school anniversary, there has been an endless stream of orders. Small orders are taken on by the mature teams I trained, while I handle the large orders. One day, an important guest came. When I arrived at the meeting room, I saw a familiar figure. It was Su Qini. I recalled what the assistant said about the client's request to plan an engagement party, so they had already reached this stage. Duan Yunqing really was lucky. I took a deep breath and pushed open the glass door. If it weren't for professional requirements, I really would have refused this order. Su Qini came alone. She didn't recognize me and was enthusiastically describing her dream engagement party to me. She wanted flowers all over the place, a castle, fountains, an evening party, and fireworks. She wanted it to be sacred and romantic. I wrote down her requirements one by one. During the conversation, Su Qini was elegant and polite, nothing like the spoiled and willful girl Duan Yunqing had described. I sighed inwardly. Duan Yunqing, this fake prince, really didn't deserve this real princess. The Su family's engagement party had high requirements and a tight schedule. After staying up for several nights, I sent the proposal to Su Qini. A few minutes later, she called me directly. Manager Qin, did you make a mistake somewhere? Her tone was calm, but as the service provider, my heart tightened. Miss Su, what are you not satisfied with? Why is the logo XD? Who does the D stand for? I was a bit confused and replied instinctively, isn't it Duan Yunqing? Su Qini laughed softly. He's just a nobody. How does he deserve to marry me? It's my fault for not making it clear. I thought everyone knew about my engagement to the heir of the Jioga group. I forgot that you're not in our circle. Jioga was a well-known clothing brand, on par with the Su group in strength. Their engagement might be well known in the upper-class circles, but as an ordinary worker, I had no idea. Sorry. I made assumptions and didn't do my job thoroughly. I'll make the changes right away. It doesn't matter. Succhini brushed it off readily, but then her tone turned serious. However, how did you know I had a relationship with Duan Yunqing? I hesitated for a long time. We were college classmates. No wonder. Succhini's tone became cheerful again. He probably showed me off all over his moments. Seriously, hey, Manager Chin. You graduated from University A, right? So Duan Yunqing really graduated from a prestigious university. I thought he only managed to get into some unaccredited college. Anyway, let's not talk about irrelevant people. I have a new idea for the engagement party. See if you can add it in. I didn't have the heart to explore the relationship between Succhini and Duan Yunqing anymore. I just focused on serving this important client well because the pay was really good. With my top-notch team, we worked day and night for over a month, and finally, we presented the grand engagement party Succhini wanted. Before the ceremony started, I was on site coordinating everything. In the middle of the chaos, I felt my arm being suddenly grabbed. Qin Xiaoxiao, you still can't let go of me. When you heard Succhini was getting engaged, you sneaked in to see me, right? It was Duan Yunqing, with bloodshot eyes. He must have had more plastic surgery. His original peach blossom eyes now had even wider double eyelids, and his nose was higher and narrower. But even so, despite wearing luxury brands, he still looked listless. I frowned and shook off his grip. What are you going crazy for? I pointed to my name tag that said head of staff and said, I'm a staff member, okay. The malice in his eyes grew stronger. A staff member, huh? Then you already knew Succhini wouldn't marry me. You came here specifically to laugh at me, didn't you? I was too busy to argue with him and signaled the staff to pull him away. Duan Yunqing, Succhini is my client. If you dare to cause trouble at this event today, I will never let you off. You have no part in today's show. I suggest you get lost as far as possible. Watching him being dragged out of the hotel, I added more security personnel and asked them to keep a close eye on him. But even so, in the middle of the ceremony, I heard from the headset that an outsider had broken in. When I arrived, I found that Succhini's bodyguards had already subdued Duan Yunqing before the security guards arrived. Seeing me come, they casually threw him on the ground, nodded to me, and then left. I looked at the man, who was beaten black and blue and lying on the ground like a pile of mud, and didn't say a word. He didn't look at me either. Staring up at the sky, he let out a cold snort. Here to laugh at me, his newly done nose was crooked from the beating, and he looked ridiculous. I finally asked the question that had been bothering me for a long time. Duan Yunqing, we parted on good terms. Why do you still hold a grudge against me? He laughed maniacally. Why? You ask me why? Why can you live so well after leaving me? Why can you easily achieve by yourself the glory and wealth that I obtained by sacrificing my dignity? Tell me. How can I not hate you when I see you like this? At this moment, my relief at breaking up with him reached its peak. How dare he say that everything I have was easily obtained, while he was groveling and flattering others. I was doing my best to meet clients' needs, while he was using his looks to his advantage. I was pulling all-nighters, turning sallow from lack of sleep, while he was squandering money. I was making smart plans, investing, and making my money work for me. So, while he was panicking that everything he had might be taken away, I was calmly enjoying my wealth. Why shouldn't I be doing better than him? Perhaps he never really loved me, he only loved himself. He chose to be in a relationship with me for all those years because my appearance and academic achievements could add luster to his life at that stage. But once we entered the next stage and I could no longer meet his needs, I became a discarded pawn, a pawn that wasn't allowed to do better than him. Being with such a person was truly a stain on my life. Just thinking about it made me feel sick. Of course, I didn't see him again after that. Succhini still entrusted us with organizing her wedding. This time, there were no unwanted guests at the ceremony, and the newlyweds were deeply in love. At the wedding venue, I heard one of Succhini's friends casually mention the young lady's past romantic affairs. She said that the most obedient little wolf dog had become an erotic live streamer after being dumped. Indeed, Duan Yunqing was used to a life of luxury. How could he be willing to work hard again? Perhaps due to his good looks, he gained some popularity. After a while, I actually saw him on a short video app. Under the ambiguous and shining lights, Duan Yunqing was wearing a uniform, his tie loosely tied. He was vigorously twisting his waist and hips, shaking to the rhythm. From time to time, he caressed his chest and lower areas, deliberately showing off his jawline throughout the video with a seductive expression. I had to admit, he was really working hard at his erotic live streaming, but compared to the countless gifts, the money still came easily. When the top contributor in the live stream room sent a virtual rocket gift, he smiled widely and kept flattering the person. I wanted to see how much it would cost to make young Master Duan smile, but by accident. I also sent a rocket. His smile grew even wider. Thank you, Sister Xiaoxiao, for the rocket, Sister Xiaoxiao. If you like me, you can send more gifts. Maybe you'll have a chance to get my exclusive videos. I felt regretful and embarrassed, with goosebumps all over my body. I immediately exited the live stream room and added him to the blacklist, but when I logged back into the app, I found that he had sent me a message from his assistant account. It's you, isn't it? I remember now. Your screen name across all platforms is Xiaoxiao. What? Can't sit still now that you see me rising to fame again, but give up, I'm a big influencer now, and there are countless wealthy women waiting to throw money at me. Without you, without Suchini, I can still live a great life. I blocked him again. He sure loves to drama queen around. I'm swamped with my own stuff. Who cares about him? But his good days didn't last long. Later, the platform tightened regulations and banned a batch of accounts that crossed the line. His account was permanently suspended. He tried creating several new accounts, but besides doing borderline erotic content, he had no other talents. Gradually, he lost his traffic and vanished from the internet. One day, Zhongku was on a business trip and sent me a video. She was invited to dinner by a business partner and went to a KTV for some fun afterward. In the video, there was a familiar figure wearing a loose-fitting shirt, showing off a large expanse of abs. He was flattering a female boss to drink. When she refused, he even tried to feed her the drink mouth to mouth. The clear liquid slid down his Adam's apple, a sight too cringy to watch. Zhongka seemed amused. Isn't that your ex-boyfriend, TSK? Looks like you had a good time with him before. I heard the hosts here are available for extra services. Should I book him and bring him back for you to play with? Me, spare me. A long time later, I saw him for the last time, at a corner of the hospital. I was accidentally bumped into by Duan Yunqing. After recognizing each other, he called out to me, Xiaoxiao, how have you been recently? I smiled calmly. Not bad. That's good, that's good. Back then, I treated you so badly. Do you still hate me? I dodged the question. Life is vast. There's no room to waste emotions on unworthy people and things. He looked haggard. Upon hearing this, he forced a smile. I know I wronged you. These days, I often think about our time at school, when we loved each other carefree and without any ulterior motives. If I could, honey, a hearty male voice cut off what he was about to say. I turned around and saw my husband, Song Qiming, walking towards me with a beaming smile. Honey, the 4D ultrasound photos of our baby are out. Look, our little one is so chubby and cute. As he spoke, he gently put his arm around my waist, excitedly sharing the joy of becoming a father for the first time. Duan Yunqing looked at my belly, which was slightly but distinctly rounded under my coat, and stood there stunned. I nodded at him. I have something else to do, so I'll be leaving now. I then took Song Qiming's arm and turned to leave. But I heard the man behind me ask in a trembling voice, Qin Xiaoxiao, why did you get married and have a baby with someone else? You should have. Afraid that listening further would make me nauseous, I interrupted him. Should have what? Waited for you. Duan Yunqing, I hope you understand that you're not the protagonist of this world. After saying that, I left without looking back. If this were a romance novel, I might have been the infatuated supporting female character, at his beck and call, waiting endlessly for someone I couldn't have. If it were a revenge-themed novel, I might have gritted my teeth, sought revenge, worked hard on my career, and become a strong female lead who chose not to marry or have children. But my life can't be categorized so simply. I enjoy the challenges of the workplace, and I also yearn for the warmth of a family. So when the right time came and I met the right person, I settled down. My heart and soul found a home, and love blossomed and bore fruit. When we left the hospital and passed that corner again, the man was long gone, but there was a medical examination report lying on the ground. Song Qiming kindly picked it up, and I accidentally glanced at it. Name, Duan Yunqing. Test result, HIV-1 antibody positive plus symbol. Now, let's travel back in time, back to the time when I was just dumped, holding back tears. I was packing up the things Duan Yunqing left behind. I noticed that he forgot to log out of WeChat on his iPad. There was a very active group chat, and I could vaguely see my name mentioned. I secretly clicked in and uncovered the so-called truth. Scrolling up through the chat records, I saw what Duan Yunqing had said while I was on a business trip. As a native of Shanghai and an only child, Xiaoxiao is actually a pretty good marriage prospect. I didn't really want to break up with her. But there's no other way. Su Qini is offering too much. Su Qini's father is worth tens of billions. She's the only daughter in the family. Once I marry her, won't all that wealth be mine? No matter how good Qin Xiaoxiao is, she's just from a moderately well-off family. How can she compare? Look out for number one, or the world will condemn you. Figuring out how to break up with her was such a headache. Otherwise, why would I have waited this long? But I came up with the perfect excuse. I'll say I was reborn and had a miserable life with Qin Xiaoxiao in my past life. This way, it won't count as betraying her. She's soft-hearted. Once I play the moral card, she'll leave without a fuss. I stared at the screen for a long time. In the end, I decided not to expose his lie. I chose to let him have his way, and in doing so, I set myself free too. I made his pursuit of a carefree and adventurous life. And I also opened the door to my own bright future. Extra, my name is Duan Yunqing. I was born in a remote small town, with a handsome appearance and excellent grades. I grew up surrounded by praise, the so-called the perfect child that parents always compare their own kids to. So many people told me that I would achieve great success one day. I firmly believed that I was like a pine tree growing out of the mud, destined for greatness. When I received my university acceptance letter, I secretly vowed that I would leave this small town forever and turn my life around. After entering university, I started looking for the right person to date, someone who could help me build a better future. But not long after, I was captivated by Qin Xiaoxiao's smile. She seemed to come from a good family, being generous and proper in everything she did. She was irresistible. She must have liked me too, because on the night I confessed my love after drinking, her eyes sparkled like stars. That's how we got together. I comforted myself that she was the best girlfriend I could find at the time, beautiful, well-mannered, and from a decent family. She wasn't from a wealthy or powerful family, but she was a reliable fallback option. I thought I could always keep looking for something better while being with her, but surprisingly, I never found that better option. Although I had countless admirers, none of them could compare to Qin Xiaoxiao. Some wealthy girls pursued me, but their personalities were far from hers. So, after all my searching and hesitating, we were still together when we graduated from university. After graduation, she started planning our future together, buying a house, a car, getting married, and having children. Just thinking about these things made me feel suffocated. Was this really going to be my life, with everything so predictable? Was my dream of rising to the top going to end here? Was I just supposed to accept this fate? No. I was afraid she was like warm water slowly boiling me to death, so I decided to make a leap. Coincidentally, the chairman's daughter came to the company for an internship. With some deliberate flirting, I managed to pique her interest. I thanked fate for this opportunity, this rope that could pull me to the top, and fortunately, I grabbed hold of it. Was spending my life with Qin Xiaoxiao really the wrong choice? My guilt quickly vanished in the face of the glamorous life I now led. With my sweet words, my willingness to grovel, and my meticulous care, I became the man who stayed by Su Qini's side the longest. I thought the vast wealth was within my grasp, but then I met Qin Xiaoxiao again. She was even more beautiful. The pain of our breakup hadn't left a single mark on her. She carried herself with grace, confident and charming. My heart started pounding wildly, but I knew it wasn't love rekindling. It was hatred flaring up. Why did she manage to transform and start anew? Why didn't she end up living the mundane life of a housewife, worrying about daily chores? Why was she dressed in luxury brands, looking like a real wealthy heiress? I hated her so much. She shouldn't have been like this. But before I could figure out how to bring her down, I fell hard. Su Qini got engaged, and the groom wasn't me. I was the last one to know. What's more, Qin Xiaoxiao was the one who planned the entire engagement party. I hated her with a vengeance. I wanted to make a quick comeback, to rise again and show her that I was right to leave her. But it seemed that with one wrong step, I kept stumbling. Many years later, as I lay on my hospital bed, my body broken and worn out, I suddenly remembered that afternoon when I came up with the idea of using Rebirth as an excuse to break up with her. The sun was shining brightly, but I didn't care. I was so proud, thinking I had finally found my way out. I thought I was walking on a golden path to success. Little did I know, it was a path of no return, blinding me with false promises of wealth and luxury. Story 2. on the day I married Jiang Wenyu, Wenting was assaulted by several men in an alley. Afterwards, Jiang Wenyu held her and blamed me, saying, "Sunyan, it's your fault." From then on, his sympathies completely shifted to someone else. Later, when I was murdered and barely alive, I made one last call to Jiang Wenyu. He hung up on me impatiently. "Can't you be more understanding? Ting is scared of thunder, and I can't leave her alone right now." In my next life, I decided to do as he wished. I wisely walked away. When I was reborn, Wenting suddenly poured a bowl of boiling hot pot soup over my face. "Slut, is it fun seducing someone else's husband?" It was as if she was actually Jiang Wenyu's legitimate wife. It was dinner time and the hot pot restaurant was crowded. People around us started looking. "So she's the mistress, but that man just called her his wife. It seems if a man is handsome, he can have as many wives as he wants. Disgusting, the mistress deserves to die." Wenting smirked, giving me a triumphant and provocative look. It was the same in my past life. She loved to create scenes and embarrass me wherever we went. If I hadn't learned the truth before my death, maybe I would have endured it again. After all, she was assaulted, became mentally ill. And both Jiang Wenyu and I bore an undeniable responsibility. "Are you okay, Nian Nian?" Jiang Wenyu's gentle voice sounded like it was from another lifetime. He carefully wiped the spicy oil from my face. However, I couldn't help but recall his numerous past accusations. "It's because of us that Ting became like this. Can't you just bear it?" This time, almost instinctively, I pushed him away. Then, I poured the equally hot spicy soup from my bowl directly onto Wenting's face. She screamed, covering her face and rolling exaggeratedly on the ground, her eyes poisoned with hatred towards me. "Does it hurt?" I found myself laughing as I watched her pain, slowly moving closer to her, my voice filled with hate barely escaping through my teeth. "Wenting, you know, I've wanted to do this for a long time." Jiang Wenyu hurriedly helped Wenting up, his face stern as he scolded me. "Sunyan, she's just sick. Why lower yourself to her level?" "Sick." I repeated the word mockingly and sarcastically, then quietly looked at Jiang Wenyu. I raised my hand and slapped him. The restaurant erupted into a commotion, and some even took out their phones to record. I took out our marriage certificate from my bag, intentionally raising my voice so everyone could hear. "Jiang Wenyu, I came here today to ask you for a divorce. Meet me at the Civil Affairs Bureau at 3 o'clock. Jiang Wenyu looked at me in shock. I didn't want to say more to him, and walked straight out of the restaurant, feeling a sense of unreality. Jiang Wenyu, Wenting, and I grew up together in the same orphanage, depending on each other for survival. My contact with Jiang Wenyu was cut off until he was adopted by the Jiang family. Later, I reunited with Jiang Wenyu in college, and we became a couple. At that time, when Ting, who was studying abroad, heard the news and joked, "You must let me be your bridesmaid when you two get married." So I never imagined that she also had feelings for Jiang Wenyu, until the wedding day when I accidentally lost the spare ring. When Ting went back to my house to retrieve the ring but was dragged into an alley by a few drunken vagrants. By the time she was rushed to the hospital, barely alive, she kept calling out Jiang Wenyu's name. The longer she called for him, the longer he remained silent. We cancelled our honeymoon and took turns caring for Wenting in the hospital. But Wenting would go mad whenever she saw me, throwing things and crying as she sought refuge in Jiang Wenyu's arms. She was like a fragile rabbit, unable to withstand the slightest disturbance anymore. Finally, Jiang Wenyu, massaging his temples, said, "Sunyan, we owe her an apology. She only recognizes me now. Can you keep your distance from her?" From then on, his heart completely leaned towards someone else. Whenever Wenting asked, he unconditionally chose her over me. Every day after work, he would first drive to Wenting's house, returning home only in the middle of the night, sometimes not at all. What could I say? I also felt guilty. I couldn't say anything, nor did I have the right to. After the incident at the hot pot restaurant in a past life, Jiang Wenyu didn't visit Wenting for a long time. This continued until my birthday. Jiang Wenyu promised me that he wouldn't go anywhere today and would celebrate with me properly. Then, when Ting called, I didn't know what happened, but I saw the increasing anxiety in Jiang Wenyu's eyes as he grabbed his coat and ran out. Almost instinctively, I grabbed his wrist. "Today is my birthday, you promised." Jiang Wenyu looked at me fiercely, disappointed. "Sunyan, if you had gone through what Wenting has, you wouldn't speak so lightly." His words turned out to be prophetic. Not long after Jiang Wenyu left, several men broke down the door of my house. I immediately hid in the bedroom and called the police. Just after I finished calling, those men used a key to open the bedroom door. How did they have the key to my bedroom? Before I could think further, they pinned me down and began tearing at my clothes. In the chaos, I managed to call Jiang Wenyu. I knew he was at Wenting's, which was close by, hoping he could come quickly, but all I heard was his cold, impatient voice. Can't you handle things yourself? Xiao Ting is scared of the thunder. I can't leave here, so. He stayed because she was afraid of thunder. I only had time to give a bitter smile before the phone was violently snatched and hung up by the assailants. Bitch, I heard an angry curse. In the last moments of my life, I told myself, if I could do it all over, I would definitely stay away from them. After my soul left my body, I found myself drifting to Wenting's house. I saw Wenting timidly grabbing Jiang Wenyu's arm, clutching it like a lifeline. Are you leaving? Jiang Wenyu put down his phone, touched her forehead and whispered, I'll wait until you fall asleep. A flicker of panic crossed Wenting's eyes as she suddenly grabbed his shirt and kissed him on the lips. Jiang Wenyu pushed her away immediately. Ting, I'm married. His tone was tinged with displeasure. Tears and a sense of unwillingness welled up in Wenting's eyes. If it wasn't for her losing the ring, how could I have ended up in that situation? Jiang Wenyu, you promised to atone to me on her behalf. You said you were willing to do anything but the final step, didn't you? Jiang Wenyu's expression stiffened, and finally, as if compromising, he closed his eyes and let Wenting kiss him again. He even skillfully placed a hand on her waist to prevent her from falling. It was as if such scenes had been replayed thousands of times. Watching him get carried away, his eyes clouded with desire, he even uncontrollably held the back of Wenting's head, deepening the kiss. A wave of intense nausea churned in my stomach, and I began to retch uncontrollably. The thunder had stopped, but Wenting was still too scared to sleep alone, so Jiang Wenyu stayed to keep her company. He made several calls to me, none of which connected, and his expression gradually darkened. Is Sun Yan angry? Wenting asked. Jiang Wenyu kept a cold face and said nothing. In the middle of the night, after he fell asleep, I saw Wenting cautiously get up and go to the balcony to make a phone call. Is it done? What? Someone died. Wenting turned pale. Didn't I tell you guys just to seduce her, record a video to threaten her, and that's it, you idiots? Never mind, I can't believe I trusted you guys. I told you to just pretend to assault me for show. But you guys, it's all over now, everything is ruined. It turned out that the thugs were hired by Wenting. Even the assault she claimed to have suffered was a drama she had orchestrated herself. After my death, perhaps out of guilt, Wenting bought a plane ticket to flee the area. However, she was arrested by the police at the airport. The man who reported her was tall and looked somewhat familiar, but I was sure it wasn't Jiang Wenyu. I tried hard to see the man's face clearly, but then I lost consciousness when I opened my eyes again. I had been reborn. I hadn't been away from the hot pot restaurant long when Jiang Wenyu's call came through. Sun Yan, I don't agree to a divorce. Where are you now? As I held the phone, a car slowly pulled up beside me. The window rolled down, revealing a stern face that gradually overlapped with the face of the man who had called the police in my previous life. Jiang Choning. Jiang Choning gestured for me to get in the car. Jiang Wenyu on the phone must have heard it. His voice turned cold. Nian Nian, how come you are with Jiang Chong? I hung up the phone directly. Jiang Wenyu sent a few more messages, essentially saying he absolutely wouldn't go to the Civil Affairs Bureau today and wanted to have a serious talk with me, and he warned me not to get too close to Jiang Choning. I couldn't help but laugh at his audacity. Jiang Choning is the late-born son of the Jiang family patriarch, known for his cold demeanor and distant relationship with the Jiang family. Jiang Wenyu was quite fearful of his younger uncle. For many years, Jiang Choning had been active in the entertainment industry and showed no interest in the family business. However, this year he suddenly withdrew from the industry, showing signs of competing with Jiang Wenyu for the family inheritance. It seemed to coincide with the time just after I married Jiang Wenyu, when he would often leave me to visit Wenting, before I could even ask the man in front of me why he was here. I heard him say, I'll take you to the hospital. Jiang Choning's gaze landed on my face. Doesn't it hurt? I was startled and subconsciously touched my face. After being reborn, filled with resentment, I had ignored even the pain of being scalded by hot soup. Now, with Jiang Choning asking, the pain seemed to finally register, burning across my face and neck. Thank you for the trouble, I said as I opened the car door and got in. In this new life, prioritizing my own well-being was crucial. He was being kind, and there was no need for me to be overly dramatic. At the hospital, Jiang Choning had the doctor perform a full-body check on me. Fortunately, the hot pot broth wasn't scalding hot, so I was mostly fine. After applying the medicine, I half squinted at him as he stood by the window making a phone call. If you're busy, you can head back to the office. Thank you for bringing me here today. I recalled that he rarely visited the Jiang family's old house and we almost never met. His sudden act of kindness was quite unexpected. It's fine, he said as he hung up the phone. Then, somewhat abruptly, he asked, are you planning to divorce Jiang Wenyu? I was taken aback. He must have seen what happened at the hot pot restaurant. I nodded. I'll contact a lawyer tomorrow. He just watched me quietly, saying nothing more. Suddenly feeling uncomfortable under his gaze, I said, I'm a bit thirsty. Only after speaking did I realize I had inadvertently commanded this strict and serious man to get me water. He glanced at me and actually went. Standing at the hospital entrance, I was filled with many emotions. Just then, I happened to see Jiang Wenyu rushing over, carrying Wenting frantically. Doctor. The moment our eyes met, Jiang Wenyu froze. I turned away emotionlessly. After waiting in the room for a while and Jiang Chongning hadn't returned, I was about to message him when I heard noise at the door. Nian Nian, it was Jiang Wenyu. This afternoon, you threw hot soup in Wenting's face at the hot pot restaurant. She thought she was going to be disfigured, got a shock, and in her distress, she ran into the kitchen and grabbed a knife to slit her wrists. She's bleeding heavily now, but the hospital's blood bank is low. You have the same blood type, could you please help her? I looked at Jiang Wenyu, his eyes full of urgency, and simply said, her life or death is not my concern. Can't you see, I'm hurt too. Are you still arguing with me? Jiang Wenyu strode over, grabbed my wrist with a grip that brooked no refusal and said, come with me to give blood. I had a fresh wound on my wrist, newly bandaged, and his rough pull sent a sharp pain through me, but he seemed completely oblivious. Jiang Wenyu, you have no right to force me to do something I don't want to. Jiang Wenyu's expression darkened. Sun Yan. Must I spell it out so clearly for you? If it weren't for your negligence with the ring years ago, how would Ting have suffered this misfortune? Why would I need to take care of her? If it weren't for your sudden outburst this afternoon, why would Xiao Ting resort to wrist slashing? People must be accountable for their own mistakes. Jiang Wenyu looked at me coldly. In his heart, I had always been the instigator. I struggled to suppress the surging irritation within me and retorted sarcastically. Jiang Wenyu, there's no need to dress up your infidelity as something noble. Have you forgotten that it was Wenting who splashed me first? She's the one who lost her mind, not me. Wenting fears disfigurement, and I deserve it if it happens to me. Besides, I have a heart condition. A blood transfusion could endanger my life, but of course, people like you tend to forget, don't you? Your heart has already sided with her. What's the point in deceiving yourself? Jiang Wenyu stood there stunned, his face turning pale, wanting to argue but finding himself unable. Jiang Wenyu, what if I told you that Wenting's assault was nothing but a drama she orchestrated herself? Would you believe it? Think about it. Why did she insist on not calling the police then? Enough. Jiang Wenyu interrupted me harshly. Sun Yan, there's no need to fabricate such absurd excuses to evade responsibility. Believe it or not, I abruptly pulled away from him and took out my phone to call the police, reporting that someone was coercing me to donate blood. Ignoring the stern look on Jiang Wenyu's face, I calmly provided the police with the hospital's address, then looked up at the man I had loved for many years. Jiang Wenyu, I'm serious about the divorce. If you don't agree, I'll file a lawsuit. A nurse rushed over to inform Jiang Wenyu that a spare blood bag had been found. Before he left me with these words, Nian Nian, I was wrong today, but I really only think of Wenting as a sister. It's always been you that I loved. The implication was clear. He would never agree to a divorce. Jiang Chongning entered just as Jiang Wenyu had left. There's no hot water left. I went down to the hospital to buy some wontons and porridge. He was explaining why he had been gone for so long. I naturally didn't mind, and sensing my discomfort, he said he needed to return to the office. Watching him finally leave, I breathed a sigh of relief. Then, I received a WeChat message. Jiang Chongning had sent me a business card, a lawyer who specializes in divorce cases, with a good success rate, never lost a case. Me, still, I politely thanked him. Thank you, uncle. After a long silence, he replied, since you've decided on a divorce, there's no need to call him uncle anymore. During the period I prepared to file for divorce, I stayed in the hospital to recover. Jiang Wenyu visited me many times. His tone was soft and his attitude sincere, promising to send Wenting abroad for treatment and to cut off contact with her. I just called the security to have him removed without showing any expression. That night, when Ting suddenly messaged me, "Do you think you've won?" "I'll tell you, he got drunk last night, and we slept together. Who knows, I might be carrying his child now." Then she immediately withdrew the message. After staring at the screen for a few seconds, I replied, "Remember to take precautions in the future. If you end up having a child with the same diminished brain capacity as you, it would be quite unfortunate. That's really your fault." The day I was discharged from the hospital, Jiang Wenyu came to see me, saying he was willing to discuss our divorce but on one condition, that I attend his mother's birthday party. "My mom has always liked you, and she's been unwell lately and would like to see you. Once the party is over, we can talk," he said. I agreed. The birthday party for Jiang's mother was a lively affair, attended by relatives from the extended family. "Sun Yan is getting more and more beautiful. If only my family had such a virtuous daughter-in-law," amid the compliments from the relatives. I noticed that Jiang Wenyu had apparently not informed his family about our plans to divorce. "Hey, isn't that Chongning? Doesn't he usually avoid these gatherings? What brought him here today?" "Yeah, he and Wenyu have never gotten along. He must be here to stir up trouble." "What trouble can he cause? Unless he plans to steal his wife." Haha. Just as I took a sip of my drink, I saw Jiang Chongning, surrounded by admirers, tall and leggy. He stood out in the crowd, his gaze swept over me. Emotionless, I nodded politely at him. He just stared back at me, his expression unreadable, then coldly shifted his gaze away. What a strange man. What is he angry about? "Sun Yan," a voice sounded by my ear. Jiang Wenyu, impeccably dressed, greeted me with a gentle smile. "Mom is waiting for you in the hall. Let's go over," he said, extending his hand. Just then, a figure swiftly appeared and skillfully took his arm. "Wenyu, I've been looking for you for a long time." It was Ting. I was surprised that Jiang Wenyu had brought her along. Does this mean that the Jiang family has accepted her status? Jiang Wenyu's smile faded, and he quickly removed Ting's hand, explaining to me with slight unease. "Sun Yan, don't misunderstand. I just smiled." "Jiang Wenyu, we're about to divorce. Who you bring to the family dinner is your choice." Ting's displeasure was evident on her face. I changed the subject. "Bringing a fool like her, though, that's quite a surprise." Ting's face turned ashen, her gaze, filled with malice, fixed on me. Her eyes then fleetingly moved to the wine glass in my hand and she eerily smiled. "Enjoy yourself today, Sister Sun Yan." Instinct told me something was off, so after exchanging pleasantries with Jiang's mother, I planned to find an excuse to leave early. It seemed unlikely that Jiang Wenyu would discuss our divorce today. He probably just tricked me into coming for his mother's birthday. Heading to the restroom, I suddenly felt an inexplicable heat surge through me. Realizing what Ting had done, my legs weakened, and I staggered, leaning against the wall. As I felt dizzy, a hand suddenly covered my mouth, and then I lost consciousness. When I woke, I was in a strange room, my mouth sealed with tape, my limbs bound. I could faintly hear a conversation. "She's been drugged by me. When you guys go in, make sure to record a video, remember? Later I will bring everyone over to catch you in the act. Make sure to leave some marks on her body." I struggled to open my eyes and saw Ting talking to several men at the door. Their appearance, they were clearly the men who broke into my house and killed me in my past life. This should be something that happens years later. Why is it happening so much sooner? And this is the Jiang family's home. Has Ting lost her mind? After Ting left, those men started arguing over something. Footsteps approached from outside, and seizing the opportunity, I lifted an ashtray with both hands and hurled it fiercely at the door. Bang! The dull sound of the ashtray hitting the door made the footsteps outside hesitate. What a bitch. This action clearly angered the men. They cursed and approached as they had in my past life. But before they could do anything, the door was smashed open. Through the haze, I seemed to see Jiang Chongning's face. Furious, "Jiang Chongning." When I opened my eyes again, the restraints on me were removed, and only Jiang Chongning was left in the room. I tried to stand, but my legs gave way, and I stumbled forward. Instead of the expected pain, I fell into a warm embrace. I grabbed his collar to steady myself. "Help me." I saw his Adam's apple bob. "Sun Yan." I tried to calm myself down and finished my request. "Take me to the bathroom." Jiang Chongning stared at me for a long time, perhaps contemplating, then quickly pushed me into the bathroom. The cold water poured over my head, barely suppressing the heat in my body. "Are you okay now?" Jiang Chongning asked from outside the door. I opened the bathroom door a bit to show I was somewhat better but still a bit embarrassed. The atmosphere was awkwardly delicate, as if casually. Jiang Choning asked, "Did you come to the banquet today intending to forgive Jiang Wenyu?" I denied directly. How could I? It's impossible between him and me now. Then I told him what had happened. Maybe it was just my perception, but I noticed a barely detectable pleasure in his demeanor. Suddenly, voices and numerous footsteps came from outside. I just saw Sun Yan enter this room with a man. I must have seen right. The voices grew closer, in a panic, without thinking. I pushed Jiang Choning into the bathroom. The door was thrown open with a bang. The first to rush in was Jiang Wenyu. Behind him, led by Wenting, were almost all the guests, and there I was, my face flushed, my clothes still damp with droplets. Marks from my struggle with those men were still visible on my body. It was hard not to let people speculate. Everyone wore an incredulous expression, murmuring quietly, "My God, what's going on here? Who would believe nothing happened?" The Jiang family's so-called good daughter-in-law turns out to be a harlot. Someone, craving more chaos, whistled at Jiang Wenyu. "That's a big green hat you're wearing there." Jiang Wenyu seemed furious, his gaze fixated on the red marks on my neck and wrists. Without any question, the next second, a slap landed heavily on my face. I was knocked to the ground. The cold and jealous voice of Jiang Wenyu almost burst through his teeth. "Tell me, who is that bastard?" But in a flash, I stood up and slapped him back hard, fueled by the anger of 2 lifetimes. I used all my strength, delivering 3 slaps to Jiang Wenyu. My sharp nails scratched his skin, leaving several fresh red marks. He touched his face, his gaze fixed on me, a mixture of pain and anger, as if these were the only words he could utter. "Who exactly is it?" Suddenly, the bathroom door was flung open, under everyone's watchful eyes. Jiang Choning emerged from the bathroom, a cold sneer on his face. "Jiang Wenyu, to raise your hand against a woman, you really have some nerve," his voice tinged with indescribable fury. I hadn't expected Jiang Choning to appear at that moment, and I was frozen in place. The atmosphere abruptly turned silent, followed by a chorus of gasps, a wave of shock rippling through the crowd. "Was it you?" Jiang Wenyu's eyes were bloodshot, his expression ferocious as if ready to kill. "Jiang Choning, seducing my wife." He swung his fist violently towards Jiang Choning's face, but Jiang Choning dodged to the side, leaving Jiang Wenyu to stagger and fall clumsily to the ground. Jiang Choning looked down at him from above. "After all these years, you haven't progressed at all." Jiang Wenyu's eyes reddened even more as he yelled, "I will kill you." He sprung up and lunged again. Both were tall men, but Jiang Choning was slightly taller and visibly more robust, making the outcome quite apparent. Jiang Choning easily dodged and then landed a heavy punch on Jiang Wenyu's face. "This punch is to teach you to respect women." While Jiang Wenyu was still stunned, Jiang Choning grabbed him by the collar and landed several more punches, each hitting hard. "This punch is to remind you to be loyal to your marriage. This punch is because you slandered an elder without knowing the facts." The scene was dead silent. No one dared to intervene, and Jiang Wenyu was the only one being attacked. After what seemed like an eternity, Jiang Choning finally stopped and rubbed his wrist, looking up to meet my gaze. It was as if he was asking, "Do you feel better now?" I stared at him, at a loss for words about how I felt. "Wenyu, how are you?" Only then did Wenting rush to Jiang Wenyu, who was now bruised and bleeding from the corner of his lips, but Jiang Wenyu didn't look at her, his gaze fixed on Jiang Choning, his emotions swirling, his eyes unexpectedly welling up with tears. "If you wanted the company, I could have given it to you. Why did you have to take Sun Yan away from me?" Seeing his self-proclaimed deep love, I felt no sympathy, even a bit disgusted. Jiang Choning coldly stared back at him. "Today is your mother's birthday party, my sister-in-law's celebration. You think I would mess around with your wife at this time? Has your brain been eaten by the woman next to you?" At these words, not only was Jiang Wenyu stunned, but Wenting's face also turned extremely ugly. Jiang Choning scoffed coldly, his gaze sweeping over everyone. "I was just passing by this room when I saw several men dressed as waiters attempting to harass Miss Su. They saw someone had discovered them, and before they could do anything, they hurriedly fled." Anyone with eyes could see the signs of a struggle in the room, notice the tape and ropes on the floor, and see the red marks on Miss Su's wrists and ankles. The crowd, as if blind. "If you really are blind, you must at least have ears." Jiang Choning turned to me, his voice resonant. "Miss Su, you have evidence, don't you?" Startled, I quickly understood his implication and pulled a voice recorder from my pocket. It wasn't hard to guess. Before I went to the bathroom earlier, I took out my recorder to keep it from getting wet. and Jiang Choning must have seen it, yes, just to be cautious. I had been carrying the recorder with me ever since I agreed to attend the banquet. When Wenting and those men conspired against me, I started recording. Now, it has indeed proven useful. The moment she saw the recorder, Wenting turned deathly pale. She lunged to snatch it but was firmly restrained by Jiang Wenyu, who grabbed her arm and demanded, "What are you afraid of?" I took pleasure in watching her terrified expression as I pressed play. The next second, the recorder clearly broadcasted Wenting's chilling voice. "She's been drugged by me. You guys go ahead and take advantage of her. Make sure to record a video. Remember, I'll bring everyone over later to catch her in the act. Try to leave more marks on her body, make her look like a slut." The room fell into a deathly silence. Wenting collapsed to the ground, reaching out tentatively to grab Jiang Wenyu's hand. "Wenyu, bitch." Jiang Wenyu slapped her fiercely, his fingers trembling. "Yes, we wronged you back then. But do you hate Nyan so much that you'd arrange for her to be violated? I've tried to make it up to you as much as possible. What more do you want?" He almost roared these words. "Because I want you to love me like you loved Sun Yen." Wenting's face was as pale as paper, her expression bordering on madness. "Do you think I don't know that every time you kiss me, you're thinking of her? I can't stand it. Jiang Wenyu, we grew up together. Why did you fall in love with her? What does she have that I don't?" The room erupted in chaos. Did I hear that wrong? Isn't this just an affair? I suddenly felt somewhat grateful that Wenting wasn't too bright. I spoke up. "Today, I came to the banquet because Jiang Wenyu previously agreed to discuss a divorce with me. The reason we've come to the point of divorce is that he cheated with Wenting. But I didn't expect that Wenting, in order to expedite our divorce, would go as far as to drug me. If it weren't for Jiang Choning's intervention, I might really have been ruined." I lowered my eyelids and gave a bitter smile. Scornful, mocking, and disdainful looks surged towards Wenting like a tide. A mistress will always be a mistress, with such vicious intentions. Not to say it out loud, but Choning, though only 3 years older than Wenyu, is more steady and reliable. And also the true son of the old master. He seems more suitable to take over the Jiang family. Indeed, has anyone called the police? This woman staying any longer really sullies my eyes. What about those men? They shouldn't be allowed to get away. Just as I was about to speak, Jiang Choning's deep voice sounded behind me. "I've already called the police, and those people have been caught." I looked up at him. Jiang Choning gave me a reassuring look. Those people had tampered with the hallway surveillance earlier, thinking they could just escape over the wall from the rockery and get away with everything. What they didn't know is that after a recent burglary, the Jiang family had installed surveillance outside the wall too. The external cameras captured their license plates, and I just received the news that the police have apprehended them. Upon hearing this, Wenting was even more agitated than before and fainted. When she woke up, the police had arrived. According to the confessions of those men, they identified Wenting as the mastermind behind the planned rape. The police also uncovered another incident. The alleged assault on Wenting years ago was also orchestrated by her. As the police took her away, Wenting screamed with all her might, "I'm a victim too. I hired them back then, but they betrayed me and truly violated me. That's why I hate Sun Ian. If it weren't for her, none of this would have happened to me. I swore to get revenge and make her feel the pain I went through. Wenyu, only you can save me now. I love you so much. Everything I did was for you." The moment Jiang Wenyu learned the truth, he was struck like lightning, completely stunned. After a long while, he turned to look at me slowly, rigidly. "Nyen Nyen." I calmly watched his pale face, and the pain and confusion slowly welling up in his eyes. He was crying. It was as if countless words were stuck in his throat, unable to be voiced. Finally, they turned into endless regret as tears filled his reddened eyes. Suddenly, I remembered an incident from the orphanage. On my 8th birthday, I really wanted a bottle of cola. That day, Jiang Wenyu had disappeared suddenly. The head of the orphanage searched for a long time and was about to call the police. When he finally returned, he was covered in bruises. He took off his jacket, handed me the cold cola he had kept against his chest, and with a smile wished me a happy birthday. He immediately winced from a cut at the corner of his mouth. Later, I learned that he had wrestled with some kids outside, and the prize was a bottle of cola. That day, I received a second gift. 7-year-old Wenting, tears streaming down her face, smashed her little bunny piggy bank to use her saved-up pocket money to buy me a 2-inch strawberry-flavored cake. Because of that cake, when a wealthy family came to the orphanage the following year after Jiang Wenyu was adopted and left, And the head asked if I wanted to go with them. I looked at the timid yet hopeful Wenting beside me and gently shook my head. So, Wenting left with them, and I stayed in the welfare home until I was 18. Times change, and none of us remained as we once were. Finally, I said to Jiang Wenyu, maybe at first, you were compensating Wenting, but you gradually developed real feelings for her. There's no need to deny it. The moment